each of whom brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to this discussion.
First, we'll introduce Mr. Shri Kumaravelu sir. Shri Kumaravelu sir is a third-generation entrepreneur who manages his family business alongside his venture, Techmark Industrials, which specializes in engineering services and property leasing. With a background in mechanical and industrial engineering, he has extensive experience in manufacturing CNC valve components, submersible pumps, and powder coating. Mr. Kumaravelu sir possesses strong skills in both technical and managerial aspects with over 17 years of overall work experience and 11 years specifically in running MSME. He excels in navigating the techno-commercial landscape and effectively managing business operations. Sir, now we welcome you to the stage, sir.
Next, we would like to introduce Mr. Kikani sir. Mr. Kikani sir, a fourth-generation entrepreneur, plays significant role in Ragav Medical Care Private Limited and Kikani Group of Textile Processing, showcasing expertise in rapid texting devices and textile processing. With an honorary degree in international business, Kikani sir's leadership extends to his position as the youngest co-chair of the Young Indians Confederation of India Industry Coimbatore chapter, where he contributes to shaping the local business landscapes. Recognized for his entrepreneurial prowess, Sir's diverse interests include professional badminton, design thinking, and avid exploration through reading, adventure, and travel, enriching both his professional and personal pursuits. We welcome you to the stage, sir.
Next, we have Mr. Nithyanandan Devaraj, sir. Sir is a distinguished professional with more than 3 decades of experience in engineering manufacturing, currently serving as the Chief Executive Officer and Business Head of DSIF, Innovation and Lockup Toy Division, a Void Group company. His career spans from hardcore manufacturing and marketing to general management, with a proven track record of leadership in companies like LMW, LAD, and Hitachi. Sir is renowned for his entrepreneurial orientation and is actively engaged in various industry and trade bodies, contributing significantly to policy advocacy and development. Sir holds a PhD in Management Sciences, an MBA in Finance and Marketing, and BE in Mechanical Engineering with distinction, along with certification in ISO standards. Outside his professional endeavors, he is dedicated to philanthropic activities and shows a familiar commitment to community welfare through his association with charitable trusts and hospitals. We welcome you to the stage, sir.
Next, we have Mr. Ragav Krishna, sir. Mr. Ragav Krishna, sir, serving as the Chief Operating Officer of Atatri, is a dynamic entrepreneur known for his innovative approach to product development. He founded Atatri, a product development laboratory, and has spearheaded the successful launch of 14 products over the past 5 years. Specializing in medical devices and marine instrumentation, Ragav sir's project reflect a commitment to advancing technology in critical sectors. However, Atatri's portfolio extends beyond these domains, encompassing diverse areas such as consumer products and industrial solutions. With his visionary leadership and multidisciplinary expertise, Ragav sir continues to drive Atatri towards excellence, shaping the future of product innovation across various industries. Now, we welcome you to the stage, sir.
Next, we have Arun Suresh, sir. Sir is leveraging open innovation to help industrial companies and the public sector with digital transformation through deep tech startups. Sir has been a part of Forge over the past 4 years and contributed to its manufacturing vision by fueling startup success via critical programmatic inventions such as product acceleration, strategic advisory, market access pathways, industrialization and commercialization partnerships, and investment pathways across the entire life cycle of industrial tech ventures, ensuring that the startups win at every stage. Sir works with startups on a daily basis to help them validate their problem, build products, develop customers, raise funds, and other intervention to help them successfully build a deep tech venture. Now we request Sir to join the stage.
Now we request Mrs. Aishwarya ma'am, our alumni, to join the stage to present the memento to Mr. Shri Kumaravelu sir. Yes, ma'am. Next, we request Dr. Umadevi ma'am to present the memento to Mr. Neel Kikani sir. Followed by, we request Dr. Bharani ma'am to present the memento to Dr. Nithyanandan Devaraj sir.
Next, Mr. Kandakumar sir, our alumni badge from 2001, we request you to present memento to Dr. Arun Suresh sir.
Followed by, we call Dr. Pavitra ma'am to present a memento to Mr. Ragav Krishna sir. Now, on to the heart of our gathering. We are here to engage in a dialogue. On to the heart of our gathering, we are here to engage in a dialogue that goes beyond mere conversation. We are here to challenge ideas, to broaden our understanding and to seek solution that resonates with the complexities of the topic. To guide us through this session, we are fortunate to have our moderator, Mr. Shri Kumaravelu sir, who will skillfully navigate our discussion. But let's not forget this gathering isn't about a voice of stage, it's all about thoughts and questions that reside within each of you. Your participation is not just welcome but encouraged. So, as we embark on this exploration together, I invite you to listen actively, to engage thoughtfully, and to contribute passionately.
Let us also ensure that everyone present here is aware of the time frame for the discussion, which is 100 minutes, allowing them to plan accordingly and engage fully within the allotted time. With that said, let's begin our journey into the depths of the topic, disruptive innovation, guided by curiosity.
Discussion on embracing disruptive innovation for long-term success, challenges and opportunities. So from morning, we were throwing lights on opportunities. We heard about lot of opportunities, benefits out of this innovation. Now this session is going to be very interesting with challenges also we are going to hear. So I request the panelists kindly to take the dais. Thank you.
Start my opening remarks from here, and then the panelists can take it from at the panel itself. So first, a big thanks to Yash, because I walked in as he was presenting, and then I think the way he broke down that concept of disruptive innovation was very nice, because very often we confuse sustainable innovation. Like, when you innovate certain products, you have incremental steps. That's incremental innovation. That's very different from what disruptive innovation is all about. So just to add on to what Yash said, it's about disruptive innovation could be a product or a service. It's about creating new markets that transform your industry, like the examples he suggested. It's a simple yet an affordable solution. And finally, you challenge all your established players. They call the incumbent players, right? You challenge all your established players and you challenge all the existing offerings. So when an idea or a product satisfies all these conditions or prerequisites, you have a disruptive innovation that's just happened. So in your, could I have the Menti slide up there? Just the first slide, please. So I'm going to use Menti as well, because I know you all had first a late lunch, and second, nice to see that most of you all came back after lunch. Kudos to all of you. And so just, I'll be running a few Menti during the panel discussion. We'll be getting some inputs from you guys. And to understand those thoughts, I'll be getting the thoughts of the moderator, of the panelists, to help with that as well. So all of you were able to log in when Manivan and when Yash was able to do it. You know how it works, right? So either scan the QR code or I'll read out the number. Can you tell me the number? I'm not able to see it here. 5348 7326. So log on to menti.com and key in the number 53487326. Can I just have a thumbs up on all those who've got it? Quick thumbs up. Yeah. If some of you haven't, please get help from your neighbor or colleague sitting next to you. So the first question, can we go to the next slide? After that, I'll take over just one. Yeah, thanks. So after all that you heard this morning, you've had 3-4 speakers. Name products or services that you think have caused disruption. So for example, I know you were talking about Ola was an example. In your mind, it could be disruptive, it couldn't be, it's up to you. Amazon, for example. So you can key in as many words as you want. So the best part about a word cloud is, if let's say one of you all keys in Amazon and 10 more people key in Amazon, the word becomes bigger. So it means more of you all are giving the same inputs. I've had just 2 so far. I'm looking for more answers from all of you. Yeah, there you go. So we have Book My Show, we have Swiggy, we have Ola, we have Netflix, we have Chat GPT, smartphone, of course. So if you agree with something that your colleagues have put up, repeat the word. So that way we'll know how the thoughts with which all of you all are thinking. Uber is one of the biggest. Uber and Swiggy seem to be doing well there. I'm going to give it another 15-20 seconds and then move on, yeah? Smartphone coming, yeah. So I think the winners are clearly Uber, Netflix and Swiggy. Those 3 seem to have a lot of traction amongst all of you. Nice. Okay, we leave that slide there for a bit. If you think of something, please put it in there. So we were just talking about this a while ago, Yash mentioned who coined the word disruptive innovation. So he also spoke about this little conversation. So we're talking about how big companies, what challenges and opportunities they may have as well. So I want to touch upon just one point related to that. So he had this discussion with an Intel CEO when he was called, the word disruptive innovation was coined, I think, in 95. So in the late 90s, Intel CEO called him, flew him down to the Bay Area, San Francisco, and had a discussion with him. It was just a 10-minute discussion. He said, I can't give you more than 10 minutes, but tell me what this is all about. So at the end of 10 minutes, he's like, what does Intel gain from this? What can Intel learn from this? And tell me that within the next 5 minutes. So then he gave that whole area, you saw the video, right, about how the smaller steel mills were able to take on the bigger steel mills because of disruptive innovation. So that's the story he gave the Intel CEO. So the Intel CEO kind of digested all this, and then he said, okay, so what I have to understand is, in my field, I have two smaller players who are challenging me, but I am a giant here. I don't think they can take on me. So Yash was just telling me that those are the ARM processors. So the Intel CEO then went back, and then they launched this product called Intel Celeron. How many of you all have heard of the Intel Celeron? When I was in, I think when I finished college, those processors were quite big. I don't even know if they're coming today. No, right? Yeah, of course. So the Intel Celeron was brought out by Intel to take on these lower companies to make sure that they don't disrupt their market. So this was the reaction of one of the bigger companies towards a potential disruptor, for example. And then I want to talk about one more small example of Coimbatore, of someone whom I've heard a lot during the years of 2016 to 18 was Dr. Velumani. How many of you all have heard of Thyrocare? Actually, surprisingly, after he sold his company, I haven't seen him come and talk outside much. But Thyrocare is a company that's into the preventive care segment. So, they do blood tests, simply put. So there are certain labs which will do blood tests based on your diseases. So when you have a disease like COVID, for example, you would go give certain specific blood tests. Whereas there are preventive care tests. For example, someone has a thyroid issue, someone has diabetes, they will go every 2 or 3 months and give a test. So Dr. Velumani decided this is what I will focus on. So he actually retired. After retirement, he started this company. And while the other national players worked on a hub and spoke model, he worked on about 5 or 6 centers, regional centers, and one main center located in Bombay. He made full use. The aviation industry at that time, I think jet was at its peak, and in the late 90s, early 2000s, he used to fly in samples. So there would be a franchisee in Coimbatore who would collect samples. Overnight, it will reach Bombay. The testing will be done. So while other people had shifts, they would work only during the daytime, 8 to 5, and they would not run their machines beyond that. He realized that I need to run my machines 24 hours because it's a huge capital investment. So he had multiple shifts happening in Bombay. So wherever these samples came from, they were tested, reports were given the next day, and he was able to give it an extremely low cost. So irrespective of this, and he only focused on about 200 tests, where there were 2,500 tests being offered by other players. He focused on this. He negotiated huge deals with the people who supply the chemicals. And with this model, he entirely disrupted the market. And when he went for an IPO, it was beyond his dreams. Of course, he's exited the company now. But at that point of time, during 16 to 19, before the IPO, he was out giving a lot of talks. You could really clearly understand the thought process behind how he disrupted this entire preventive care segment. So on that note, I would request the other panelists to also give their opening remarks. You could do it seated as well, but I think Mr. Arun alone has a few slides, so maybe we'll start with you, Arun, and then move on to the other panelists. Yeah? Over to you. Can I have the slides? Slide. Disruptive innovation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kumaravelu. So I thought I know you, from the morning you would have heard what disruptive innovation is, but I wanted to give you a visual aspect, or visually how to understand what is disruptive innovation is. So myself, I am Arun. I am from Forge. I primarily work with startups. I consult for them. I help them build breakthrough technologies and disruptive innovations. So that's a bit of myself. So going into what disruptive innovation is, next slide please. Yeah. Okay. how did the first ever computers look like? Any ideas? Anyone want to take a stab on like? Yeah, it was like huge. You need a big room to even facilitate a small computer. And in terms of the capabilities, it had like very limited capabilities. It can't do much, right? Next slide, please. This is what the computers look like. Huge, very bulky, and this is something. Next slide. It was not just huge, but it also needed experts to operate it. You need engineers to operate it. It was not that simple like how we use today. You need specialized experts and engineers to come and actually operate it and maintain it, right? And it was very expensive. Like I'm talking about, let's say, 80 years back, 80, 90 years back, it was very expensive. So only a very handful of industries or universities across the world was even able to adopt it. Obviously, it requires a huge space. So that was the state of computers, say 80 years, 90 years back. Next slide. Okay, thanks to companies like these, Apple, Microsoft, IBM, Hewlett-Packard, multiple other companies, computers started reducing in size thanks to technology, because vacuum tubes were then replaced with transistors and all those technological innovations came together. Next slide. And then we got something like this. So this started appearing in smaller companies, offices, even some households. We were able to buy what this is called a personal computer, a desktop computer as we call it, right? This didn't require experts to come and operate. You need some level of expertise, but it was relatively easy to use. It had graphical user interface, kind of little intuitive to operate, and not that expensive. So a large number of users started using these computers, but still it didn't penetrate a very large user base. So this was the state. Next one. And these are today's computers. I'm sure each one of us has at least one in our hand, if not 2, 3, right? So these are today's computers. And these are not very expensive. Of course, I'm not talking about Apple, but of course other smartphones and computers. It's not very expensive. And there is no one who needs to train you on how to use these computers. You just have to buy it, take it out of the package, start using it. That's it, right? So it's that easy to use, easy to buy, easy to maintain, operate, etc., right? And think of the first computer, right? It has very limited capabilities, but imagine what kind of capabilities these computers have. It can do anything and everything, right? From launching a rocket to playing games, right? It has a very wide variety of capabilities. So that's what today's computers are able to do. So now you've seen how computers evolved, right? Now I'll put you into perspective saying how this is a disruptive innovation. Next slide. Yeah, just keep that computer's example in mind. So this is a visual way of understanding disruptive innovation. Again, this is from the person who theorized the theory of disruptive innovation, Professor Clayton Christensen. So he explains that in any market, any segment, any user base, any industry, you'll find users in kind of concentric circles, right? If you look at the center circle, the red circle, you have like less people who have a lot of skills and a lot of money, right? So that's the inner circle, less number of users, but they have a lot of money, they have a lot of skills. Second, there is the yellow circle, right? You have relatively more number of users who has moderate skills and comparatively more money. That's the second circle. And the third and the outermost circle, you have the largest base of users or customers who has very less money and very less skills. You look at the users, right? The center circle has like very less users. As you go to the outer and outer circle, the number of users starts to increase. Next slide. So this is how computers evolved. When computers were introduced, the first computers, only a handful of universities across the world were able to afford it, buy it, use it, because The users is base is less, but they had a lot of skills, they had a lot of money, so they were able to buy it, afford it, and use it. But it didn't reach the mass market, right? And then slowly personal computers and desktop computers started evolving. It went to the other set of users. And then today, if you look at literally anyone has a computer, right? Now, like the user base for computer is almost universal. Like almost everyone has a computer. So this is how disruptive innovation specifically for computers has evolved. So this is a neat visual representation of how to imagine disruptive innovations. Basically, a technology that started to be, that was very expensive, hard to operate, not easily affordable, not easy to use, etc. But then, because of technology and advancements, it became simpler, affordable, less expensive, so that it created new markets, went into user bases that was previously non-existent, converted customers, converted people who were not even customers. It created a huge market opportunity. So this, in short, is what disruptive innovation is. Take a sophisticated, expensive, complicated technology, and then how can it become simple, affordable, easy to use so that it penetrates the mass market. So yeah, so that's this is what disruptive innovation for a visual representation would look like. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arun. I think that was very concise and very clear. Dr. Nithyanandan, if you could.
With the permission of the chair, before I commence whatever I want to say, I want to do a couple of things. Can I? Can I? Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat, Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I have somebody here whom I respect a lot, who has been more than a professor to me. I mean, I call him my brother now, Dr. Venkatapati. ரொம்ப பயந்துட்டீங்களா எத்தனை நேரம் அவங்க ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணது பார்த்து இல்லை ஸோ I'm going to talk something different from what we have seen so far from the management angle of the innovation. ஒரு சின்ன எக்ஸாம்பிள், how many of you have heard about Miyawaki forestation? You have done it, okay, from the back roads. That's an innovation. When everybody was talking about distance between plants, Miyawaki thought about crowding the plants for phenomenal growth. It's a very, very simple innovation. So I also work very closely with many social organizations here. Sirutuli, you know Sirutuli? So one of the occasions where I need to address some of the mentees of Sirutuli, one of the biggest innovation that attracted me was not the conventional drip irrigation. Somebody in the village, they thought water is going to be a crisis 10 years before I'm talking about. And they started putting plastic bottles and made water drip around. Made water drip around over the plants, whatever he was growing. And that bottle of water was able to feed for the entire day. It's an innovation or not? Conservation plus distribution, innovation. Friends, there's a lot of scope. So far you have heard a couple of speakers, learned speakers speak about product innovation. How many of you believe scope for innovation exists only in the products? Friends, all these things what you have heard about so far, will you agree with me when I say they are all adoptions of innovations? Steve Jobs, who is it? Apple. He is more an integrator than an innovator. He is more an integrator than an innovator. His innovation process was integration. He identified technologies and he identified the needs of the consumers, where he will be able to connect the technology with that emerging needs of the consumers. So the biggest innovator is somebody who believes the outside-inside approach is not for him. He believes that something called as inside-outside approach. He always says that, the biggest innovator always says that consumer is one who may not know what he wants. Consumer is one who may not know what he wants. Agara mudala eduthallam adi bhagavan mugatri. Where it starts from. It's all internalized. It's all internalized. So you believe you have something to offer to the consumer which actually may not have a need at the moment. The marketing, now from the Kirana shops, today what you are seeing the malls, can you see the evolution of the sales and distribution network, which is a major innovation in our era, I would say. Somebody who can answer what I'm asking? The changes that have happened from that of Kirana shops, when we grew, we don't travel to buy anything what we need. In fact, things were coming to our houses. Now, how is it now? The Lulu Mall, which is there, of course, in Cochin and now in Coimbatore, what is it actually offering? Is it offering just a shopping experience? So it has moved from convenience shopping to compulsive shopping to convenient shopping to pleasure shopping today. I repeat, from compulsive shopping, where you go and buy anything and everything that you want at the moment of need, then it went into convenient shopping, including your online purchases. And today you have malls where you go to also shop. You don't go there only to shop, right? You don't go there only to shop. So it's a place where families get together. It is a place where families get together, friends get together to just get together. It's like a social gathering where you also do the shopping. So look at the changes that have happened in our own livelihood from the kind of experiences what we are going through. Now, if you ask me whether the shops in the malls are making money, that's a big question mark. World over, it's been proven that most of the shops in the malls are financially stressed. But still they keep developing malls. I repeat, most of the shops in the malls world over are financially stressed. But still we continue to build malls. Spencer's, how many of you know Spencer's? So one of the finest malls when we were all students. Well, where is it today? Anybody talking about Spencer's? Nilgiri is in Coimbatore, our own Coimbatore. Where is it today? So it keeps developing and it becomes bigger. And I'm one person, please don't quote me anywhere, against the mall culture. Against mall culture. It's a power guzzler. It's been proven worldwide, again with statistics. 70% of the goods lying there are not for purchase. It's only for display. 70% of the air conditioning in the malls are not for people, it's only for the goods. Now you can imagine what you're paying for. Are you paying for the goods what you're purchasing? No. That is when e-commerce came into existence. Today, many of us buy through e-commerce not because we want to save money, because it's sheer convenience. Despite being a very, very humble farmer from agricultural family, I also use online shopping. I don't consider myself tech savvy. But imagine if I have to travel to a shopping mall and still invest time for buying something. One is luxury of time you need to have. Then imagine the amount of the energy that is spent in traveling to the mall and getting it. So I've become a big fan of online shopping, which is an essential innovation as far as I am concerned for the future of the world. How does it help it? So it is again integration of various technology. You have somebody who has developed apps, there is a medium of communication, then the last mile connectivity, what we are talking about, the distribution network. Now, all of you know about TVS Motors, right? You know on what basis the TVS Motors, the sales and distribution network was designed? Can you guess? Anybody can guess? When Mr. Venu Srinivasan decided to get into two-wheeler industry, he started with mopeds. Who were using mopeds at that point of time? Was it more to do with cityites, or it's more to do with semi-urban and ruralites? Semi-urban and rural. So he was just observing the distribution of model of ITC, Indian Tobacco Company. So he decided wherever ITC has an outlet, he will have one of his outlets. Today, the same methodology is followed by Mahindra's for the tractors, kiosks. They call now kiosk. Again, adoption of technology. Friends, as Indians, how many of you believe we are innovators? Only few hands. So much less confidence in our own country, is it? Please believe we are innovators. Please believe we are innovators. We are not product innovators, we are process innovators. Why today people are talking about China plus one? It's just because people don't have the wherewithal to do the manufacturing on their own? No, because we have found out ways and means by starting from keeping the exchange rate at 80 rupees to a dollar and 90 rupees to a euro. That's an innovation. People identified that we can survive only when the exchange rate is 80 rupees to a dollar and 90 rupees to a euro. So we are leveraging that advantage, cost advantage. That's an innovation, financial innovation, what I call as. Because of which, today we have become process innovators. Anything and everything we make, if we can't better than China, we can at least offer an alternative to China. Now, many examples, I'm sure the learned speakers over here will agree with me. Coimbatore is not dearth of examples for process innovation. Sharp type motors was synonymous with the pumps, what they call as fractional HP pumps. But unfortunately, I don't know about others, I have the unique advantage of doing my research in the field of innovation. I don't know, that's the reason why Dr. Rupa picked me up as one of the panelists. Thanks for that, actually. So, having studied the Coimbatore organizations for over 3 generations, unfortunately, we are not successful in repeating these processes. Stuck. The entire family got stuck with the sharp type fractional HP motors. They couldn't move further. For various reasons. Now, innovation, is it sustainable? Yes, it can be sustainable. You can take first step because of your innovation. But to sustain that, you need the QCDL&M. Quality, cost, delivery, logistics, and management. That's essential. Anything and everything, whether you call it as services or whether you call it as product, you need that QCDLM to sustain the innovation. Quality, cost, delivery, logistics, and management. So when I talk about quality, today who decides the quality? You decide the quality or somebody else decides the quality? There is a pen for 10 rupees. There is a pen for a couple of crores also. How many of you are aware there is a pen for a couple of crores? The pen which is used by Anand Ambani is almost 2.5 crores, 250 lakhs. It's positioning innovation. It's a positioning innovation. You understand? The basic purpose of a pen is only to write. Now imagine what the 2.5 crore pen offers. It's a positioning. They choose the customers. His watch, I believe, is 25 crores. The makers of such products, they choose the customer. For example, Rolls-Royce, anybody and everybody cannot go and buy. There's another example for positioning innovation. If you want to buy a Rolls-Royce car, they come and audit you, whether you're a person whom they can sell the car to. Why is it that? Why is it that? Why is it that? Why is Rolls-Royce doing it? They want to study the customer before they want to offer the product to. Not that people can't afford to have a Rolls Royce. They choose the customer whom they want to sell the Rolls Royce to. It's a brand retention, brand identity retention. They decide these are the people who are worthy of a Rolls Royce car. Whether we like it or not, that's a fact. Lexus brand is owned by whom? Lexus brand is owned by whom? How many of you are aware Lexus brand is owned by whom? Why did they create a brand called Lexus? Why? Why not in same the Toyota also owns a brand called Daihatsu. How many of you are aware of it? Why? Why Lexus is a brand, not Toyota? Again, positioning innovation. If you segment, normally segmentation, if you observe the automotive industry, friends, that's the mother of all innovations. That's the mother of all innovations. Automotive industry is the mother of all. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, if you start applying that for positioning innovation from the automotive perspective, you start with A class, B class, C class, D class, and E class. E class is the esteemed class. D class is the, the distinguished class. A class is the mass class. B class is the upper middle class. That's how it is classified. You have B minus, B plus, C minus, C plus. Subsegments are there within the segments. So, Toyota was known to be a mid-segment brand. A-segment brand was occupied by Daihatsu. Because Toyota could not compete with Daihatsu, they ended up taking over Daihatsu. Again, innovation. To recognize that they cannot compete with Daihatsu is an innovation. Decisive innovation, what I call this as. To recognize you don't have the wherewithal to compete with somebody. So they took over the company. They offered that brand, I don't know even if that brand exists as of now, Daihatsu, for the A segment. The B and C segment was predominantly occupied by Toyota brands. Now they wanted to compete with the likes of BMW and Mercedes-Benz. They thought Toyota may not help them because Maruti did that and failed. Maruti did that and miserably failed. Maruti has Kawasaki or something, a brand which they tried to create and sell it for 20 lakhs when the cars were then selling for less than 5-6 lakhs. It failed. Maruti failed in that segment. And many have failed. Many have failed. Mahindras were trying to do that, they failed. But recognition of failure itself is an important requirement for you to be an innovator. So I always tell, and one of the reasons why Coimbatore organizations are not surviving beyond 3 generations is they knew very well when to enter, but unfortunately they didn't know when to exit. This is very important characteristic for an innovator. This is a very important characteristic for an innovator if you are to be a disruptive innovator. I equate disruptive innovation to a traffic. What do you do when you are caught in a traffic? என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க டிராஃபிக்கில் இருந்தால்? All of you are familiar with Tamil, at least but for the couple of people sitting in the third row here. தமிழ் தெரியுமா எல்லாத்துக்கும்? வெரி குட். என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க டிராஃபிக்கில் மாட்டிட்டா? ஷார்ட்கட்ஸ் மட்டுமா இல்லை எப்படியா சந்தில் பூந்து வெளியில் போயிடலான்னு பார்ப்பீங்களா? அதுதான் innovation. Necessity is the mother of all inventions and innovation. There is a huge difference between invention and innovation. There is anybody who can take it? What is the difference between invention and innovation? Anybody? Invention and innovation. What is the difference? I used Q, C, D, L, and M. எத்தனை பேருக்கு புரிஞ்சது what that Q stands for, C stands for, D stands for, L stands for, and M stands for? எவ்வளோ பேருக்கு தெரிஞ்சதுங்க? QCD கண்டிப்பாக தெரிஞ்சிருக்கணும். குவாலிட்டி, காஸ்ட் அண்ட் டெலிவரி. L stands for logistics, M stands for management. எல்லாத்துலேயும் immense potential is available for innovation. Immense potential is available for innovation. Today, when we talk about quality, we are talking about non-touch measurements, where human intervention itself is not required. Then dynamic measurements. Innovation, again, I'm sure the chair will understand what I'm trying to communicate here.
So if we could just sum up because it's...
Yeah, I'll do that. So these are some of the... So please believe me, friends, when I say innovation is not a one-off process. It's a highly structured process. It is a characteristic of an organization. Organizations like 3M, DuPont, they have built innovation as part and parcel of their daily management process. They have decided 30% of the revenue every year should come from the new products which is less than 3 years old. So it's inbuilt in the gene. That is what disruption is all about. You create, in technical terms, what you use, cannibalization in marketing. What is cannibalization is all about? It's not killing a product which is not doing bad in the market, which is doing bad in the market. It's a killing a product which is very successful in the market. It's a killing a product which is very successful in the market and bringing something which will help you to overcome and sustain the business. So there are companies like 3M, DuPont, which has leveraged this disruptive characteristic, like cannibalization for the sustained growth. Anyway, we'll continue to discuss this. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I totally believe in process innovation as well, I think, and I think we have to foster that. Thankfully, Coimbatore, as entrepreneurs, we foster that culture, and like he said, I think it's in our genes as well, but you have to recognize it and allow it to foster. I'd like to hear from Neil and Ragav as well, who are also third generation here, Neil? Fourth. Ragav, okay, over to you guys.
Yeah, so good evening. Great to hear thoughts from the two stalwarts who spoke before us. Just coming back to the topic on disruptive technologies. Disruption has not is not something very new. It's a very old concept, a concept which was used by the kings. And India, and as particularly India, Indians have been disrupting since centuries, since decades. And the problem here is we don't use Indian examples. The moment the slide comes up, it's all the foreign companies because they are more relevant today. But Indian companies are far more relevant in disruptions. For example, the biggest case study, for example, Tata Hydropower. The Tata Group has been disrupting India for 200 years. The most contemporary example is Boat. How many of y'all have heard of Boat headphones? There you go. The biggest disruptor in the Indian market today is Boat headphones. So basically, innovation and disruption, two different things. I'll just go through the basic ABCDs of what innovation and disruption is, more of a student to student connect. So innovation comes from the customer. You take feedback from the customer, you improvise on your product, you go sell it to the market with a fewer enhancements. That becomes innovation. Innovation helps increase the market share for a company. That's innovation for you. But disruption creates a new customer segment. Disruption helps you cater to that customer segment which was not paid attention to. That's what disruption is. See, the very simple meaning of disruption is disrupting or interrupting certain actions which are already free-flowing. When you disrupt a common way of doing things, it's called disruption. Bringing in interruption in a common way of doing things. Another big example of disruption in the Indian context is airlines. Indigo, the biggest disruptor in the aviation sector. Airlines was considered only for the high class. Indigo, Kingfisher, they come and find a segment in the mid-level segment and say, why can't these people fly? So doing something for the segment which is not paid attention to by the greater players or the incumbents which are already there in the market is disruption. So helping you connect with more Indian examples so that you can relate. The other best example for disruption is Taj Hotels. So Taj Hotels was started because Indians were not allowed to go to any other premium hotel brand in India during the British times. And the Tata Group chairman and the founder and the chairman of the Tata Group, Jamshedji Tata, he started the Taj Hotel in Bombay, which is today a 5-star property, for Indians to come and enjoy the same level of reception that the British people got. That is disruption. So, in short, innovation is one thing, disruption is one thing. Yes, disruptive innovation is a new term coined, but it is two different things. You know, so you are an innovator, you are a disruptor. So like they say, you know, all innovators can be disruptors, but all disruptors cannot be innovators. You know, so yes, those are my opening remarks. So just kept it short and simple.
Thanks, Neil, for giving the Indian context to it. I think that was very nice. And I think one thing you missed out on was the UPI, right? The United Payments Interface. Today, we're able to just go to any Kirana store, mentioned it. We can go to any Kirana store and then just pay 10, 15 rupees. So I think that's a huge disruptive innovation in the last couple of years. Ragav?
Just one small intervention. How many of you here are aware that UPI was a brainchild of one of BSMED's alumnus? I think Professor Venkpati will know, Ramesh, who was my classmate, was the first managing director of UPI interface in India. He's a BSMED alumnus. He now heads the Geo Financial Services as CEO.
Hello. I would like to spin a different story from the startup aspect. So, generally, if you consider a product development life cycle, the very initial thing what we do is go to the market, get a feedback from the customer. So, Henry Ford once said, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have told I needed faster horses. So, customer doesn't always know that there is a better technology which is available which can make their life better. So in that aspect, when you compare companies who are well established versus startups, we see a lot of times these startups bring up these disruptive innovations. The reason for this disruptive innovation coming from startups is because they don't have a market. They don't have a customer whom they can go and ask, what should I do next? Instead, they try to see what is the market gap which is available, what is that I can capture and take it forward from there. So, again, we cannot just say the disruptive innovation has only come from the startups. It has come from very big companies like mega corporations like Apple, Facebook, possibly Google also. So, if I would like to take this very large mega corporations as an example and start by looking at how they bring about disruptive innovation. So for example, Facebook, initially that could have been called a disruptive innovation, but over time, when WhatsApp came up, when Instagram came up, they saw that that has a very good point of inflection at which point they bought out those companies. That is also a strategy for bigger companies to sustain in disrupting the industry. One more example of Google. So Google has a slightly different approach to it. What they do is, they are a bunch of startups. If you look at the engineers in Google, they don't have like a job profile what they cater to. They are left on their own to bring their innovation to the market as a product. So there is a website just called Killed by Google, which has like hundreds of products which has been killed by Google, their own products. So they're not afraid of bringing products to market. They just give the engineers the freedom to bring a product to market, fail if you want, but fail fast. That's the idea. And another example of a bigger company sustaining in innovation is Apple. So what they do is, they don't create disruptive innovation anymore. I might be wrong, but that is what I believe. But what they do is, they have a marketplace on top of which others' innovation can build on. So they give a platform for every other disruptive innovation to build on. These are like the global examples of how I see bigger corporations take up step in sustaining their journey in disruptive innovation. So, yeah, this, and again, so a lot of this technologies or this thing is not breakthrough at all. I would like to give an example of these elevators. So elevators has been known to humans like for 200 years. Like it's just a pulley system which lifts it up, right? There is nothing which is stopping an elevator from becoming famous. But in 1853, Otis displayed its braking technology at a huge fair, and that is what made it a disruption in the market, and they were able to sell the elevator because of the braking technology. It is not because of lifting people at all. So what I'm trying to say is there might be multiple attempts at bringing a disruptive innovation, but the point of inflection has to be gathered in such a way that all aspects of the market is catered to, both accessibility, affordability, safety. When all the aspects are taken into account, that is when the disruption happens. So that would be my opening remark. We'll go on from here.
Thanks, Ragav, for that startup perspective for that. So if you could just pull up the Menti slide, please, down there. The Menti slide. So I think we're going to keep disturbing you guys in between. So getting a little, I'm going to have another 1 or 2 little polls so we can also share the insights of the audience and then move on. So while the slide is pulled up, has it? Yeah. So all of you all have that menti.com on your phone still? So it's the same number. If you need the number, please get it from your friends. So the next question I have for you is, which service is a bigger disruptor, Uber or Airbnb? What do you think? So Uber, for example, leases, like you get cars, right? You lease out cars, whereas Airbnb leases out spaces. So you can go take any space across the world with an Airbnb. I think of late many of us have been doing vacations. So what are your thoughts? I have Uber, I have an Airbnb a close second. So I'm going to ask Dr. Arun for his opinion while the students answer that question. On this, what do you think? Which is a bigger disruptor according to you? Or are they similar?
Sure. So, okay, I wouldn't agree with the poll here. Even Clayton Christensen claims that Uber isn't actually disruptive. The reason being, one fundamental question is, did Uber create a new market? Are people, it's the same people who hire a cab are the ones who are using Uber. It did not convert non-users into users. It's the same set of people that are using Uber. On contrary, if you look at Airbnb, it created a new market as a whole, which did not even exist. Like the traditional business model was, you construct a building, you converted it into a hotel, and then people come in, book, that's it. That was the traditional model. Obviously, it was expensive, a little expensive. But then what did Airbnb did? Okay, there were some rooms that was people were not using in their homes. So why don't we rent it, right? So that became a very new model. Of course, it is going to be very less expensive compared to traditional hotels. It created a new user base, new market as a whole. So it expanded the market base. So if you go to the visuals that I was presenting, it actually went to a wider or a very big user base and created a new market. So that would be my views on this. Yeah.
Interesting, sir. Totally agree on that. Yes, ma'am, please.
How far it is successful in Indian context? Airbnb.
May not be much, but we've seen proof abroad that adoption has been better. But what I see here is Uber, it has made the process a little bit more easier to use, but it has not created a new market is what I believe. But in India, I think it is picking up. But only time will tell if it will really pick up and if it's a sustainable business model. Yeah, we'll have to wait for the time.
So one problem they have here is, ma'am, since you asked, it's very review based. Like a user has to stay there and write a review. So very often what is portrayed on Airbnb in India is very different from what you get. Hence, as a result, I stopped using Airbnb in India, to be frank. You're right on that. So I'm going to move on to a question. So we've been talking about the market needs. On one side, sir said necessity is the mother of invention. On one more side, we say Apple gives a product that the customer doesn't even know he needs, right? But it's very important to have this peripheral vision. Where exactly will this idea come from? Like, when there is a problem, you need to start thinking on how to ideate for that. Many of us accept the problem and move on. So I want the thoughts of the panelists, maybe starting from Ragav, on how do you find this market? How do you have this peripheral vision? How do you constantly look out for problems for which you get ideas? Anything that you practice also would be nice.
I would start here again with an example of what we are doing. Maybe it throws a bit more light, maybe it doesn't, but I would like to quote this example. So generally in ships, what they do is, for doing any servicing on the ships, they do dry docking of the ships, which is a very costly affair. Like if the ship doesn't run for a day, they encounter losses of 50 lakhs to a crore easily. So that's how it is. So we came across this problem from people who handle ships, like just a marine engineer sitting over dinner. He was telling that we face problems of so much of this problem happening, where we have to dry dock our ships like 10% of the whole working time, which is huge for us. So the conversation went like this: what is stopping you from servicing it during operation? So all they have to do is strip the paint and repaint it. That is all they have to do to maintain the ships. The major overhaul every 3 years once. There is so many other processes, but for minor overhauls, this is all they do. So the problem was, they have the equipment, but they don't have the elevator required to have, or a scaffolding required to put it up and do the painting operation. So what we designed for them was basically a lift which magnetically attaches to the ship floor and then does this operation. So it solves their problem. And it is disruptive in a sense that they are the first company to take this to market, in a sense that to use painting or do painting in the high seas. So this in itself created a disruption in the shipping segment, whereby they benefited by just using painting on motion in high seas. That's about it. So
the problem statement came from the shipbuilder, or did you identify it?
So this is more of literally a dinner conversation, how it went. And after the product idea came is when we went and approached the ship operator. So the shipbuilder is different, the ship operator is different, the ship owner is again different. So this is the servicing. There is a O&M, they have a separate team or separate companies who handle that. We approached them to get this done. So
interesting. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Ragav, for that. I mean, there are pointers which I want to pick up from what Ragav said. And Kumar's question on having a peripheral vision to identify which industry to disrupt. There are three main points. And I think as students of the management stream, even when you want to start your own startup to disrupt, there are three key points to figure out whether the industry is ready to be disrupted or not. One is outdated technology. Second is customer frustration, whether the customer is frustrated with that industry. And the third one is market complacency. Three main points which I felt when I started my startup in 2017. We are into rapid testing devices, and we don't use blood as sample, we use urine as sample for more rapid detection. So there were a lot of detections happening through blood. But there was a lot of customer frustration with the results, because when you give a blood test, you get results in 4 days. When you do a urine test, you get results in 5 minutes, right? And the market was being complacent, it was being expensive, it was being time consuming, and the technology was outdated. So as students, as people, as entrepreneurs, look out for these three things to understand that it's time to disrupt the industry. If the industry is outdated with technology, if the industry has customers frustrated, and if the industry is complacent, meaning it has reached its tipping point. One more example, Kumar, I want to add. Uber, Airbnb, it's bed and breakfast. One more Indian example, Reliance Jio, the biggest disruptor of its time. You know, and if I had to put the third option, I think it would have been 90%. Reliance Jio, again with these 3 pointers. Before Jio, the market was frustrated with telecom, with internet, with high pricing calls. The market was complacent because there were only 2 to 3 players in the market. And then there was outdated technology where the players were banking on. So there's this man who comes up, figures out and disrupts the industry. So I think 3 key parameters to have a peripheral vision and to disrupt the market.
Interesting, Neil. Sir, your thoughts?
It's one challenge when you have youngsters as co-panelists. Technology having come from traditional industry. Let me use your question as a leveraging. Today where ISO stands. ISO enna theriyuma? எத்தனை பேருக்கு தெரியும் ஐஎஸ்ஓன்னு என்னன்னு? ISO, when I started my career, was reactive. Today, it became proactive. Today, they insist on predictive. So, the question you ask, how can you, identify problems? Today, they are looking at market sustenance. They are looking at business growth. They are looking at continuous improvements. It is a documented procedure. I keep repeating, innovation, whatever you are talking about, it is a highly structured process. Invention can be one of breakthrough inventions, but innovation is a highly structured process. Please remember this always. It's a highly structured process, and it should be the DNA of an individual, then it should become a DNA of the organization. Because leadership is very, very important, because innovation is essentially a people process, more than anything else. Some of the examples I'll pick from what my fellow panelists spoke about. Please permit me to use a different opinion when you spoke about Indigo. My own observation about Indigo is the disruptors were Deccan Airways and NEPC and Paramount those days. Unfortunately, they couldn't sustain. They were the disruptors. Indigo was a process innovator. Indigo studied the entire airline industry across the world. Today, I don't know how many of you are aware that Indigo is the most successful airline in the world, one of the most successful airlines in the world, simply because they standardized the fleet. They standardized the fleet because their operation and maintenance cost is the lowest in the world. That's what they decided to go about. Royal Enfield. It was a bankrupt company when Acer went into it. Royal Enfield was a bankrupt company when Acer went into it. All the Japanese were looking at the boys for their selling their product. And how was Royal Enfield positioned? It's a man product. Remember, masculinity was the positioning strategy used by Royal Enfield those days. And it's very successful. It's one which, the Acer, Lal, Sibulal, it's one of the, which gave him the name in the world, I would say. Royal Enfield. Today, it's shoulder to shoulder with Harley Davidson in the rest of the world, if you talk. So I keep repeating, using this word QC, D, L, and M when I talk about cost. You have umpteen examples in Coimbatore. For example, Biocon is an R&D, process R&D institution. They don't own any products or patents. If you want to do something in medical industry, you tell them this is what you develop. They develop the product, develop the process, and in Coimbatore you have JM Automotives, which does this for the rest of the automotive industries in the country. Similarly, Bull Machine Works. How many of you have heard about Bull Machine Works? Many of you heard about. So he is standing shoulder to shoulder with international brands. And his innovation is cost, nothing but cost. He is offering the value for money. If you talk about Reynolds pen was an innovation. When everybody was using a fountain pen which was sold for 20-25 rupees, they looked at the student segment who can afford to spend only 5 rupees, 6 rupees. They brought in the Reynolds pen, use and throw pens in those days. Then when you talk about distribution, for us, Toyota is the Bible. Toyota management system is the Bible. They call it TPS. But for all of us today in manufacturing, I'm sure for you also as well, Chair, Toyota production system is the Bible for us. they were the first ones to use the hub and spoke model. And reciprocating logistics, they were the first one. One way the product will go, back way the supplies will come in. And look at from the logistics innovation side, for textile industry today, logistic cost is very significant, and lead times are also very significant. One Hong Kong-based company decided to have a factory on the ship. They go and load all the raw materials in one port, and the entire factory will be operating within the ship. They go to the next destination where they are supposed to deliver. This is some of the innovation. So, in a nutshell, today, continuous improvement is in the genes, has to be in the gene of the industry if you are to keep yourself afloat, and you need to have the necessary certification. I hope I answered your question. Yeah. In the business what you're talking about, I still feel ride share was the first disruption. All other things are only amalgamation of technologies. It's a way to use technology and take it forward. Thank you. One thought process, as youngsters, to pick up from all my fellow speakers, please remember the success rate is only 10%. The success rate of innovation is only 10%. You need to have that 90% failures to succeed 10%. Otherwise, you will miss out the 10% also. Yeah.
No, I was just thinking even 10 is a very optimistic number, sir, to tell you the truth. 7 is the right. It's probably, yeah. Yeah. At least for the students, we should, yeah. Your thoughts on capturing the market or getting ideas from the market? Yeah.
Sure. So, one particular industry I think has a lot of potential to be disrupted is healthcare. So, I'll go back to technology examples, hope you don't mind. So the reason is, okay, imagine when have we gone to a hospital, consulted a doctor, just like that came back without waiting. We wait for hours and hours, and only then, even for tests, for consulting the doctor, we spend at least half a day or if not full day there, right? The reason is accessibility. We have like very less number of experts, doctors, practitioners, even equipments, right? We have very less, and it's very concentrated. So we had to wait, we had to spend a lot of time, and then only able to offer the service. For at least for us, it's okay, but imagine people who can't afford that as well, right? They don't even have access. I think that's where we need a lot of disruptive innovations, those that are very simple to use and cheaper. I'll take one example, that a startup that I worked with. They've developed a product called AI Steth. It's a stethoscope that has AI capabilities, artificial intelligence. So what it does is only experienced doctors with normal stethoscopes will be able to identify abnormalities in a heart. What this startup has done is they've built AI capabilities in that stethoscope so that even a novice doctor with just 1 year of experience will be able to diagnose and screen that. Imagine the time we could save. Imagine if you give that to, say, to the nurses. They'll be quickly able to diagnose it. That's it, right? We don't have to wait. A lot of cost is saved, and it can open up market for a lot of people as well. So I think the healthcare is a big market that is waiting for disruption. Yeah.
I totally agree on that. So, okay, next question to all of you out there. Ragav, I think you like this question. I want to let you answer it. Which company is a bigger disruptor, Tesla or SpaceX, in your opinion? I'd like to hear from the audience as well. Who do you think? You guys have heard of both, right? Tesla, of course. SpaceX. Who's heard of SpaceX? It's Elon Musk space. Yeah, okay. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which is a bigger disruptor?
So, the bigger disruptor is, in my opinion, is definitely SpaceX. The reason being privatization of space travel is an industry which was not thought of. Like, it is not an industry which was created. So that is more of a disruptor than Tesla. Tesla, we all know, because that's the volumes they sell. That is how penetrated the market they are already in. So that's the reason we know Tesla. I would also like to add a few more points here. Tesla, GM had a car called EV1, which was an electric car much before Tesla did. What did Tesla do, right? Like, it was not that they told electric cars are the future. they told electric cars can be fun. That is the only point they bought in, where they built an aspirational value for the Tesla brand and the vehicle what they built, rather than going around circles telling that it's more eco-friendly, it's more affordable or easy on the pocket on the longer run. That is not what they did. They built an aspirational point. In that aspect, I think Tesla can be essentially called a disruptor, but SpaceX over time, because it's a long process of going to space, over time we would see that SpaceX is a bigger disruptor.
I personally thought he started Tesla to fund SpaceX eventually. I thought that was his thought process.
No, I completely agree with Ragav. I mean, SpaceX in a nutshell is conquering impossibilities of what an industry can do in space. And he's bought it to a price point where he's trying to make it affordable for an average human being to travel to space. So it's an aspirational brand plus a brand that stands for conquering impossibilities. I mean, look at that man is talking about Mars, when nobody on the planet is even having the courage to talk about a planet which is not even discovered, or the planet which is not even into study of travel. And he is envisioning life on Mars through SpaceX. So SpaceX is definitely a brand to reckon with and create a market segment that impossible can be possible.
So I'm going to move on to my next question to all the panelists. So maybe we'll start with Dr. Arun and then move down. So you have the idea, right? So we were at a session recently, in a learning session, and they specifically said, start small, experiment, when you get an idea, experiment, start small and then scale fast. That's what they were saying. So when you have an idea of a product or something, what would be the starting point? How would you really start off on the journey, since you run a startup ecosystem as well?
Sure. So generally, innovation is seen as like an art, saying like it's more like creative, but we, the practices that we do, we don't agree with that. As Sir pointed out, innovation is a structured process. There is a science to it on how to do it, and we've been doing that. What we do is, market surveys and customer surveys can take you only to some extent. What really matters is putting the products in the hands of the customers, let them use it, and that's the real feedback that you can get. So there is this whole concept called the lean startup, right? A lean methodology. It's not just for startups, even for bigger companies who are trying to introduce new products into the market, right? So build a very basic version of your product. They call it MVP, minimum viable product, right? So build that like very basic, very lean product. Don't build everything. Just build the basic core functionalities and utilities. Give it to the hands of the customers. Test if they are able to get value out of it. You're not testing features and functionalities, but you are testing value. Ultimately, value is what users want, customers want, right? Test that value and iterate from there. So that's I think, even startups or bigger companies, that is the approach that they have to do. We'll start with a very lean, very small, minimum viable product, iterate it. It will take shape, learn from it and take shape. So that's the approach, I would say. Yeah.
I think iteration is something you've been touching upon as well.
Sir, let me again go back to the examples what our friends were talking about. To me, still, Tesla is the major disruptor. They have become a benchmark today. I'll just give one example in the automotive industry. The base frame, which all of you are familiar with, which is used for construction of a car, building of a car. How much time it was taking to construct that base frame? It was about 100 hours to construct, which were all through welding. What, Elon Musk did, can you guess how much he has brought it down to? 1 minute. 1 minute. Imagine from 100 hours to 1 minute, he identified, because for Tesla, scaling up was biggest challenge. So to scale up, he brought in that innovation. So why I'm saying so is, in majority of the industries where you have a tangible product, it is true for intangible products also, but we don't see it now. validation becomes very, very important. Field testing, validation becomes very, very important. So we start with, now I'm going into the technical aspects of innovation and managing innovation. You start with value engineering. BPR itself is a innovation tool actually. BPR, business process reengineering, it's a valuation tool. Then we use something called as RCA, root cause analysis. That's one another starting tool. Then after you do the root cause analysis, you go into the CAPA, corrective and preventive action. That is again an innovation tool. After you finish with both of these things, then you have something called as DFMEA and PFMEA. Design failure mode effect analysis and process failure mode effect analysis. Then benchmarking is the most powerful tool today for disruptive innovation. You look at something what's happening in the market, then you try to either improvise or reduce the cost. See, these only two things what an innovation can do. Either add value or reduce the cost. From the benefit of the consumer, if you look at, so these two. So again, going back to what Doctor was saying, Dr. Arun was saying, today, if you look at even disruptive innovation, it has to be highly engineered, and it has, when I say engineered, not necessarily for the tangible product, for even intangible products also. For example, many of us would have noticed today, you don't have to switch on and switch off the light. If you walk into a good hotel, the mobile phone rings, the TV audio automatically goes. Then lightings, it is all sensor based today. Small innovations, because it all started with managing the energy crisis, how to save power. Because 5-star hotels, energy is a big thing, and you cannot, because the kind of people who are staying there, you cannot go and tell them you do this, you do that. So they brought in automation, they adopted automation to change all these things. Again, validation is very, very important, field testing is very, very important, but again, having said that, perfection, I'm a big follower of Japanese technology, they always do it on the go. Perfection is a myth for them. Yeah, have I answered your question, sir? Yes.
So I think I come from the same thought process as you, sirs, but I love this little thing about you guys are more into products and he's more into process. I kind of agree with him actually on many of those points, but nice to hear thoughts from different sides. So your thoughts on, the whole process, and once you have an idea, how do you go about it? I know with Ragav itself, you must have had your challenges.
Yes. We use the 3I framework. When we select a product, when we select a service to enter an industry. With Ragav, when we were entering into rapid testing and not just testing, we came up with the 3I framework. It's intensity, impact, and ingenuity. So what does intensity do? You check on how intense the market is, and you conclude that whether the product is the need, is disruption a need, is the product the need of the market. Impact, on how impactful the product is going to be after you launch it. That's you do through your product feedback, your market research, and all of that. And ingenuity is how genuine is the market for the product, the product for the market. Sorry. So we follow a very simple 3I framework whenever we want to bring in a new product, we want to bring in a new service, or we want to collaborate with an external player as well. So impact, ingenuity, and intensity.
What is the inflection point at which a product becomes a disruptive product or a service becomes a disruptive service is something I would like to touch on, because we are all going towards that is what I feel. At what point does it inflect to become a disruptive product or a service? So to throw light on that, again, let's take an example of Tesla itself. When they initially came to the market, they used Lotus's frame and a vehicle and everything. The battery was from Panasonic. The motor was their proprietary technology, which was from a company which Elon Musk bought from PayPal's money, selling PayPal basically. So the only part of innovation, what he bought in at that point was in the motor technology. And that product went to market, which was half-baked. That a lot of people now agree, because that was an aspirational product, a two-door roadster, which was brought to market. And it was aspirational in the sense that it was very fast, it was looking cool, but as the fit and finish and other real TQM processes, what we talk about, it was not initially ingrained in the product as such. It was bought over time. That kind of holds true for most of the disruptive products or services, because for newer companies or for newer ventures, it is very difficult to get everything right initially. So taking that risk of going to market before you perfect it has become a norm in disruptive innovations. Whether it's good or not, time should tell.
A couple of additions to what we are talking. I wish the chair should have used ISR also as a disruptor in this space. 10% of the cost what SpaceX invests. That's the biggest disruptor to me to date in the space technology. With one more tool which is very powerful tool as youngsters, which you should, I normally use it even for personal management at family. Whenever there is an argument and discomfort with your spouse, you sit and ask 5 times why. Japanese philosophy, very strongly used, and it has to be used as professionalism. Anything and everything you encounter in your life, you go step back and start using the 5 whys. Why? 5th why, if you don't get an answer, you're not in the right direction.
On that note, I'm just going to open out maybe a few questions from the audience. Anybody has any questions to any of the panelists here? If you could pass a mic there, please.
Had a very good discussion about innovation, disruption, all this stuff. But just want to understand all this, being a businessman, all this innovation, whether it is Elon Musk, whether whoever it may be, they are doing it for profits. So what is the economic impact that brings the community in a greater shape? So any innovation that really supported the economic part of the community. That's what I want to know. See, anyone want to do an innovation to make money? Being a businessman, that's the core idea. Just want to understand from you. Even I have an answer for you, but I just still want to.
The question you asked is the answer for the difference between invention and innovation. Invention does not look at the commercial value, but innovation always looks at the societal value and the commercial value. Without having the commercial value and societal value in mind, you don't start an innovation process. Could be anything. It could be a product innovation or a process innovation. Ultimately, the benefit goes to, that's what I said. There are only 2 possibilities through innovation. Either it adds value to the consumer or reduces the cost for the consumer. No, you look at it. When I have always believed the profit is a byproduct.
Absolutely.
Obviously, sales is also byproduct. It has to come from the society. You don't do innovation for the sake of innovation. It cannot happen. That is why most of the Coimbatore companies did not survive beyond 3 generations. Because it's all personality driven. They were not process driven. Okay. Have I answered the questioning?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're okay? Convinced with the answer, sir? Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, please go ahead.
Just I want to have a clarity. My question is to Neil Kikani, sir. You were saying about 3 factors which are relevant for startups to be disruptors in the market, right? Outdated technology and customer frustration, and what is the third one actually?
Yeah, market complacency.
Okay.
So if the market is complacent, I'll give you an example. The music headphone market, you had JBL, you had Bose, you still have
Sennheiser.
Sennheiser, you had Marshall, whatnot. You had Sony. They were the top brands who were catering to a certain amount of the market. But then the market became so complacent that the other customer segments were feeling left out. And then you have somebody called as Boat, who comes in, shakes up the industry and says, yes, I can make headphones as good as the top people and sell it at $999.
Okay.
So was the technology outdated? Might have been, but he bought in technology with more relevance to the market, appealing to the people who are not appealed to, the upper middle class and the middle class segment who wanted the same quality of headphones and wearables as the bigger players were, So he literally, today Boat is the second most profitable, and by volume they manufacture, they're the second biggest brand in the world. Second biggest wearable and an audio brand in the world, certified. So that is what I'm talking about. Outdated technology and market concentration, yes. Market was being complacent to the customer segments, yes. Right? So 3 factors.
Okay. And one question to the senior most panelists.
Should I take it as a compliment? Okay.
Yeah, you can. We all know how Big Basket is evolving, and by Tata's takeover, they are just dominating the market and trying to replace the Kirana stores. So, what lies ahead for Big Basket? Will they ruin the Kiranas, or what will happen?
It's a kind of social engineering that has to happen, because whatever we have been talking so far is only for the 10% of Indian society. I'm not talking about elsewhere in the world. The changes what we are talking about, whatever technology we have discussed about, it doesn't impact more than 10% of Indian society. The remaining 90% of the society is untouched by these kind of changes. So obviously, for Kirana stores to be eliminated, first and foremost, the smartphone should be available at every nook and corner in the country. The bandwidth should be available. Second, the last mile connectivity should also be available. And for your information, Big Bazaar is going through trouble. I don't know how. Big Basket is going through trouble. I don't know how long they're going to sustain the business.
Oh.
Today, the biggest profit-making retailer is D-Mart.
Yeah.
D-Mart. Despite all the tools what we are talking about, they are still revolutioning the same Kirana model, but volume discounts. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
If I could just add to that point, there is a recent startup I was hearing about, I don't remember the name, they're based out of Mumbai. So what they do is they pick up from a Kirana store and give that last mile connectivity. So they call it dark stores. You don't know from which store the product is coming from. Even if you order a Coke bottle, they're probably one of the riders is en route. He'll pick it up from one of the stores and come and drop it off at you. And they recently got funded, I think around $500 million or something to that extent. So there is a lot of innovation happening in that sector, which probably will help these Kirana stores
to survive.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for these inputs.
No, only one example I will use. Today, the traditional barber shops, how many places you see that? How many of you are aware that's a 15,000 crore industry, green trends? Today, who is cutting your hair? Is it the traditional barbers?
New players are coming in.
So the same thing will happen to Kirana stores. The next generation may not be interested in running those stores. They might move out of running those stores and become professionals or become an entrepreneurs in some other world. You understand? So they will have their own natural cyclical impact, but I don't think Big Basket will be a competitor to them anytime now. Not in our generation at least.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Anybody from the student side, any questions from there? I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions and then we can close. So I'll take it forward, sir. I mean, I have 1 or 2 more things. So for example, we're all talking about failures, right? So I could have a disruptive idea. I've made a product. I'm iterating my product. When do I really realize that it's not going to succeed? We talk about a very small success rate. I'm sure all of you all would have had your own set of failures. Something that the students can take home on when you decided to, call it stops, like, put a full stop on what you were doing at some point in your journey.
See, respected chair, to answer the question, let me do it in two parts. Whenever you talk about a failure, not necessarily the innovation has failed. I'll go by the question what one of the participants asked. Innovation might have succeeded. Whether it has yielded a commercial success is the question what all of us should have in mind. So most of the failures are not per se the commercial, the product or the innovation failures, but many a times it's the commercial failures. So any innovation has to go through the product PLC, product life cycle. You have an introductory phase, you have a growth phase, you have a stability phase, then a declining phase. Now, extension of the declining phase itself is an innovation. Now, people do many things to extend the declining phase by bringing in added features. Like example, the easiest example what I can give is the Creta. Hyundai Creta, which continues to bring in some kind of changes and keeping that brand alive. But having said that, today there are two challenges in disruptive innovation, most so in disruptive innovation than the innovation process. How to because in an organization you cannot afford to spend more than 5 to 7% for any development process. I'm sure the panelists will agree with me here, because that's what today out of the profitability you can spend for it. So how do you manage the remaining 93% of the non-innovators in the industry? So the failures happen because you're unable to convince your own team that it's a future product for the future. There is a future for the organization. So managing the non-innovators is very important, and the point of influx, what we call, the point of recognition that your innovation is not succeeding is very, very critical. That's why when I gave my opening remark, most of us know when to enter, but many of us fail to recognize when to exit. So exit policy and exit innovation will be completely driven by the commercial aspect of the innovation process. And I hope I have answered your question.
I think I second that. There's a term called as innovator's dilemma. It's coined by Clayton Christensen, who came up with the concept of disruptive innovation. It's a great book. If you get hands on it, it's on internet. It's a PDF. It's called Innovator's Dilemma. It's exactly stating that the company does everything right, but it still fails. So how do you come out of that dilemma is what the book says. I think the greatest example is Tata Nano. The company did everything right from point A to point Z, but it failed in marketing it right. So it's called the innovator's dilemma, and like Sir said, you know your entry, you plan your entry well, but when you exit is a question mark, and that has to be equated to whether your innovation brings in a commercial return to it.
From an innovator's perspective, how I see it is every product what we build, we think of it as our baby. So what happens is we most times feel very bad to kill it. So I will give you one example. During COVID, we made a powered air purifying respirator. It could cure 99.997 of the germs. We gave it to 50 hospitals, around 200 doctors. It was all amazing. We got a fund from the government to make it into a complete product. We did the injection molding, we did everything. Now it's ready for the market, but there are no takers. So if anyone else had seen from the outside, they would have figured that, oh, this is going nowhere because COVID is ending, no one is going to buy it. But me personally, I don't see that, because I still see that, ICUs in operation theaters still use PAPRs. Why don't I sell it to them? So I think that is where the dilemma is. We get very emotionally attached to the products, but having an outer perspective makes a lot of sense. True.
How many products came out of the process of inventing this thing? How many byproducts came out of it?
Very interesting question. So we have a product called a powered window, which is coming to the market in the next few months. We have tied up with a bigger player, and we are bringing it to the market. That is pretty much going to go on all the windows, where you don't have to open your windows, close your windows. You don't have to worry about dust. It's just going to pump in fresh air from outside. So yeah, it was a very interesting product, which was a byproduct of the main product, yes.
to add to what Mr. Ragav was saying. During the pandemic period, as part of the many industry association, I was under tremendous pressure to give approvals to many projects. I put my foot down and said it is non-sustainable model. It is a pandemic-induced business. It may not sustain. When the pandemic goes, it may not sustain. So, I mean, one is recognition. That's why today, even ISO, when I said it's become predictive, to look at the longevity of whatever you're doing becomes very, very important today before you embark on a commercial journey, not on your innovation journey. Innovation has to be part and parcel of your DNA, but when you start your commercial journey, you always have to have in mind the longevity of the process what you're talking about here.
Just a quick concluding point on this topic, what we are talking about. I feel that mentorship is very much important in this aspect. As innovators or young businessmen or startups, we fail to see the importance of mentorship, and that plays a major role in having a sustainable business.
So I totally agree with Ragav when he said that, see, a lot of products or innovations fail because the founders fall in love with their idea or technology, right? They have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. They start hitting it, right? But there is a concept in lean methodology called pivoting, right? So you test your product, like your minimum viable product. Okay, looks like it is not working out. The customers are not valuing that product. Okay, how they're valuing something else. How can I build that? Can I pivot it to something else? But that won't happen if you are like holding on to your technology or idea very closely. That you don't want to go into any place, right? And again, I agree with Raghav saying mentor is very important. They bring an outside perspective. We work with a lot of startups. Things that seems obvious to us would not be obvious to a startup. We tell them that, okay, this is not working out. You should try something else. So that outside perspective is something mentors and advisors can bring. So yeah.
Just taking from your word pivot, you know, it's not always necessary that you exit when you start making losses or when you bleed. You should know your exit even when you're profit making. You know, so there are a lot of companies which have done wonders when they know to exit even when they're profit making. So correct. Right. So for the betterment, for the sustainability and the betterment of your company in the long run. So, I mean, it's a great, pivoting at the right time, it makes a lot of difference.
For me, the best example of that is Toyota Innova. Products on a high, they suddenly phase it out, launch one at double the cost and still succeed. Yeah. So,
before I think we go into the closing remark, I only want to ask one thing. How many of you like Nitin Gadkari? He has brought one of the most important innovations that is required for the country. What was the biggest challenge for sugar mills in India? They are neither here nor there because everything is controlled by the government. And he thought how to make sugar mills profitable. So he made it the byproduct of sugar mills as a marketable commodity. Today he is insisting that ethanol should be mixed with petrol. Moving forward, our reliance on import of diesel will reduce. Please don't get me wrong. I am not speaking about any party over here. I am speaking about one individual who is trying to change the dynamics of sugar industry. He is not trying to change the dynamics of automotive industry. But sugar industry, which is always under stress. Because of the single decision, today many of the sugar mills have become profitable across the country.
I think we should close on that note. I would like our session to end on time. I think we're at 102, 103 minutes. I've been watching the clock there. So if you could all move forward for a picture and then, thank you so much. I enjoyed the discussion today. I have a lot of takeaways irrespective of the students. I had a lot of lovely takeaways. Can we have a round of applause for the speakers on stage, please?
So, good evening once again. Actually, I will sum up within a couple of minutes. Today, the session, I don't have any words to say about the session because it was very interesting and we could see the perspectives, different perspectives, how do they view this innovation? Innovation is the same constant concept, but we could understand from different perspectives. That was the plus of this session. And to quickly sum up, we came to know about various n number of companies, their innovations, how they were successful. So it was in that way very interesting, and a beautiful example given by Mr. Arun Suresh, that from mainframe computers, big computers, to the handheld and lap-held computers. And we came to know about Intel ThyroCare success. And from Dr. Nithyanandan sir, he gave many examples right from plant cloning to many motors, automobiles. He touched almost all the industries. And I thank Mr. Ragav Krishna also. He explained from startup perspectives, and then I thank Neil Kikani sir, and I thank Mr. Shri Kumaravelu for their wonderful deliberations. And as challenges, we could say that the cost of healthcare. So innovation is taking place. What is the cost of healthcare to the final consumers? And the second challenge is cannibalization in marketing that we came across. And customers are forced to buy certain products which are not required. So as it is an innovation, the product is innovated, the customers are given. But anyways, as customers, we are all enjoying. So innovation, technology, all these make our life very comfortable, and the quality of life is assured. So as consumers, we are all very happy. But as students, we should not stop with the consumers. We have to be the providers, the technology developers and technology providers to the market. So I thank once again all the panelists for their wonderful deliberations, involvement, and their participation for the students community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we request Dr. N. Umadevi ma'am to present gifts to all the panelists.
Now, we request Dr. Rupa Kunasilan ma'am to present a memento to Dr. N. Umadevi ma'am.